Can. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Manny Diaz's weekly press conference. The Canes wrap up the regular season this Saturday in Durham, North Carolina at 12:30 p.m. against Duke. It's an RSN game this time around. As always, we will start with an opening statement from Coach Diaz, and then we'll roll into questions. Coach, take it away.
Yeah, thank you, Carter, and thank you everybody for being here. And happy Thanksgiving week to everybody. We gave the players off yesterday. That was a day that they deserved to have off after hard-fought late-night win, Hard Rock Stadium, in front of our fans who gutted it out with the conditions and really provided us with a great home field advantage there in the fourth quarter to kind of take over the game. And this is Thanksgiving week here at the University of Miami. There's no class, so we can adjust our schedule a little bit. We'll have the guys coming in this afternoon, and we'll get through the film and get ourselves ready for Duke prep. Going on the road in conference, we've got to make sure that we finish the regular season. We still believe that our best performance is out there, and that's really will be our focus this week is to find a way to play a complete 60-minute game up there in Durham. So with that, I'll open up for questions.
Great. Thanks, Coach. We'll start with Kobe Price. Kobe, go ahead.
Thanks, Carter. Manny, happy Thanksgiving week to you too. Had a couple of questions, kind of two parts, if you don't mind. From an injury standpoint, obviously James and Tyreek. James didn't play. Tyreek seemed like he was limited. I guess, do you have an update on them?
Yeah, James is going to need surgery. Unfortunately, his muscle injury that he sustained in the Florida State game can't heal on its own, so he'll be getting surgery here shortly, and he won't be able to play for us the rest of the year, which is obviously a big loss. I mean, he'd obviously, taken a big role on our defense and was playing really well and provided a lot of energy in our secondary. So another hit to our back end that left us very thin, as you mentioned on Saturday when Tyreek went out, especially. Tyreek, we think there's a better chance of him playing this weekend and moving forward. Yeah, I mean, Amari Carter went back to safety last week and filled in. I thought he played very well, and his versatility, godsend to us. And we will have to manage with what we have, which is kind of what we've done all year.
And then the second question I had was, we asked you about being the defensive coordinator last week. Just wanted to ask, what's been the biggest challenge, of the dual role, being the head coach and defensive coordinator? And if you have the hindsight of 11 games, would you make that same decision again of taking on the dual role? Thank you.
With the hindsight, well, to me, when you're in a decision-making role in any capacity, in any type of leadership capacity, you make the information, you make a decision with the information that you have at the time. And with what we had with the decision that was presented in front of me, with all the different information and all the different ways that it could go, I absolutely would have done it again. I don't feel logistically that there was any struggles of working both roles. So, I mean, this year defensively, obviously it's not been to our standard, not been the standard of in the time that I've been here at this school. But there's a lot of reasons for that, some that we can discuss externally and some that we don't. But the main thing is are we improving? Are we getting better? And are the guys playing hard? And I think all those things are true. So, like I said, we've got a 60-minute performance that's still out there, and hopefully it shows up this weekend at Duke.
Next, we'll go to Tim Reynolds. Tim, go ahead.
Thanks, Carter. Hi, Manny. Happy Thanksgiving week to you. It's obviously Duke's last game this weekend. Is there an additional challenge when you're going to face some guys? I mean, it's not his oldest team, but it's not a real young team up there either. There's some guys that are going to play football for the last time on Saturday. How much does that add to the challenge when guys are going to be facing, this is the last chapter, the last act for some of those guys? Can that make this game even tougher?
Of course. I mean, yeah. I mean, there's always that sense of urgency, with all players. I mean, look, college football players work extraordinarily hard throughout the off season, and you get, we don't get 162 or 82. We get a finite number of games, and so if I'm a wideout, getting another touchdown catch, if I'm a D lineman, logging another sack. I mean, this is kind of, sort of the last chance that, as you mentioned, these guys get again until until the fall. So I think you always see that sense of urgency that can pop up in a game like that. You have some guys, as you mentioned, that it's their last time through. We saw what it meant to our seniors at their last home game. This will be their senior night. We've obviously, by the rare or the unique scheduling quirk, we've been up there now 3 years in a row to end the season. Well, I guess last year didn't quite end the season. Same time of year, I would say. Look, when one thing we've learned in the time at Miami is you always expect everybody's best shot. When Miami rolls into town, it's always a big deal when people play Miami, and we suspect this will be no different.
And finally, do you even amongst your staff, and you probably don't bring it up with players too often, but when you have staff meetings, when you're in there with the offensive coaches or whatever, Tyler's doing things that have never been done here. And, this place was called Quarterback U once upon a time, and he's doing things that nobody's ever done. Do you guys ever talk about, places in history and stuff like that? Or is it something for after the season?
Probably after, Tim, but also I think you have to respect different eras, more snaps in the game, certainly often, the game tilted towards offensive football, but tempo, those type things. I think it's phenomenal that we have an offensive system now here at the University of Miami that, can create the type of numbers, not just for quarterback, but you look at, the guys like Rambo, who's got a chance to break records. Harley's got a chance to break, career records here at the University of Miami. And that's, you want to be able to recruit to that. And you want to be able to going forward, to set a lot of offensive records with what we're doing. So, but yes, it has been impressive what Tyler's done, and he deserves a lot of credit. But as I've mentioned too, is that I think everybody's playing very well around our quarterback, and we have a much more well-balanced offense than we had for sure at the beginning of the season, and absolutely more so than a year ago.
Thanks, Manny. Happy Thanksgiving again.
Thanks, Tim.
Next, we'll go to Matt Shodell. Matt.
Hey, Manny. Wanted to ask a question that I guess you don't get asked much about. The punter. So Lou Headley was at senior day, and I know he's only a redshirt junior. Like, is he definitely leaving? And then if he is, what would you envision the plan is next year? Because I guess the backup you guys list, Gask, is also a redshirt senior. Is it Nelson Foley for sure? Do you bring in a guy? Like, what's sort of the plan there if you were looking ahead?
Yeah, Nelson was brought in to be the next guy in line. Louis did decide to go through senior day. There was still a little bit of I would say the door is not completely shut, and I don't want to speak for him on him returning a year from now. I do also have to brag on Matthias. Matthias Gask is a phenomenal punter. He really is a talented young man who we've been fortunate to have in the program the last couple of years. But yeah, I think Nelson, when we recruited Nelson originally, and gave him a spot going forward, it was to be that he would be here for when Louis departed. And but like I said, we'll leave that up to Louis. My conversation with him last week was he's been so good to us, and we want what's best for him. And I know he loves it here and enjoys being here. So we'll find out kind of how that plays out over the next 3 to 4 weeks.
Next, we'll go to Manny Navarro. Manny, go ahead.
Hey, Manny. I'm curious how Tyler Van Dyke is feeling. We know he took that hit or slip or whatever in that wet mess. Just his left knee, how he's doing.
Yeah, it was good. The trainers, were pleased with how he looked yesterday and his strength and range of motion, all that type of stuff. You know what I mean? Your normal post game soreness, which a bunch of guys had, but it was a good report from when he came in the day after the game.
Next, we'll go to Tom Deangelo. Tom, go ahead.
Thanks, Carter. Hey, Manny, happy Thanksgiving to you also. Many guys talked about the important going to a bowl and what it means and all, but especially with a team where you got two or three classes here and of young guys, a lot of young players playing. Is that even more beneficial to get that practice and to get that extra game in because of kind of the age of your team?
Certainly, there's no question. It keeps football on our minds, keeps us developing, allows us to continue to develop our guys, and also prepares them for that environment, for the bowl environment. So that when this team comes back a year from now, and again this time next year, whether it's playing in Charlotte, playing in whatever bowl game it is, we got to get used to winning bowl games. You know what I mean? So that's a great challenge for our guys because it's obviously, again, something that's been proven to be difficult to do. So yeah, I think December will be a very valuable month for all of our players.
That was going to be my follow-up. Is the recent history in bowls hasn't been very good here, and despite what, how many players play and all these schools that use excuses that kids didn't play, how big is it? Even if it's a mid-tier bowl, how important is it to win it?
It is important, Tom, because they count them on your record. You know what I mean? But you use the word excuses. I mean, those are realities. You know, I grew up probably like you did. I mean, I loved bowl games, and it was special to, to see your team playing a bowl, or even back when, the traditional Big 8 teams would come down here and play in the Orange Bowl. And but the times they are changing, and you're not always getting the team in the regular season that plays in that bowl game. So, we're a ways away from those discussions here in our bowl game, in our building. But that's a real live thing, and it's a shame, but that's just, that toothpaste is out of the tube and it's not getting put back in. So it is difficult when everybody does want to win those bowls and you're measured by it. And, but it's not quite a fair representation of what your team is on that day. Usually the same thing's true on both sides, but it's just a little bit of a unique situation of where we're at in this day and age until our playoff expands.
Thank you.
Next up, we'll go to David Lang. David, go ahead.
Manny, over the last couple of weeks, you've been very specific about focusing on going 1-0, the task at hand, and putting any sort of outside discussions sort of out of your mind. But I'm curious, on Saturday, it was a pretty dramatic scene on the field in the rain with the seniors having that moment. And I'm curious if, given everything that's sort of swirling around the program with Blake leaving and, potential of who knows what the future is going to hold, if part of you sort of took in that moment to appreciate that moment because you don't know what's ahead.
It's funny. I didn't. That's actually fascinating you asked that. I even took note of that. I was so fired up for the guys. I think that was the moment. It was their moment, and I was so fired up to see their faces in that moment and how happy they were. And again, a lot of these guys, I've been with these guys for a long time, even back when I was a coordinator. So you just can only, we remember the disappointment, how we ended our home schedule a year ago, and you can only walk off that field one last time, and I think the celebration, I think it's important to note also, it wasn't, it's not about where we are. It's not about the celebration. It's not about our record. It's not about clinching bowl eligibility. It was about what these guys accomplished. They accomplished a real thing last week because, and again, this is not a staff thing. Players, those older guys. I mean, it was hard at the beginning of last week, coming off of that Florida State loss. Hard, and it could have gone any direction. And for those guys to do a hard thing and say, you know what, we're still going to play with great energy on Saturday. We're going to play hard for each other. Guys are not going to start to check out. Guys are not going to start to think individual, selfish, NFL. And I'm talking about our older guys. That's not always been the case here. For those guys to play, that was the thing we're celebrating. It was celebrating the team and what the team accomplished just in a 1 week thing. And I was proud of them for that. And it's okay to celebrate those type of accomplishing hard things, despite of the fact of what it means to beat Virginia Tech, to get the 6th win. That's not really what it's about. It was about just the community of people inside that locker room and what they were able to come together and do, despite some difficult mental obstacles.
How do you do it? I'm curious, just like from a personal standpoint, how do you do it when there's so much outside noise? There's so much speculation. There is concrete change in Blake leaving, and there's someone new is going to come in. And we all know how that tends to go in college athletics. How do you lock in? How do you not let that enter your mind?
Well, I think the key is, let's say this. It's not let it into your mind. The question is, do you allow it to stay there and take up, residency? I mean, look, the way our mind works, I mean, thoughts are always going to come into our mind. We have the choice whether to allow them to become permanent residents or not. And I think one thing that I've been fortunate on is the ability to stay present. this job allows you, if you do it the right way, to stay present, because there's always something to do. And that, I think you mentioned it in the first way you asked the question, is that there's always a mission. There's always something that needs to be accomplished right now. And that doesn't end Saturday when the clock is 000. It immediately goes to recruiting, immediately goes to, your own roster. There's just always something in the present moment that demands your attention. And if your attention is, and we tell the players this all the time, we can't demand it from the players if we don't live it as coaches. And I think that's why, what I am proud of this season is that we have been the same team every week. And what I mean by that is we've played with great effort, we played with great energy, we've played together, we've played hard, we've been resilient. And I think that's a credit to our staff. And I say staff, I'm talking about coaches, strength coaches, trainers, everybody, for being the same people when they come in this building every week. Because all it takes is somebody to panic and somebody to start to live in fear, and the players sense it, and you've got a problem. So I'm indebted to the people that I get to work with, and again, a set of players that they live what we talk about in terms of be in the present moment, play the next play, and move on.
Next, we'll go to Susan Miller-Degnan from the Herald. Susan, go ahead.
Hey, Manny, happy Thanksgiving to you and your family. I listened this morning to WQAM, and you talking some stuff about recruiting and that next week getting out on the road during the contact period, I guess. Do the kids that are already committed to you, and just recruits in general, with all the uncertainty that's been swirling around the program and the Blake James situation, do they ask you about that? And I'm not sure in what way they can do that, but do they ask you about it or express their concern about that stuff?
Sure, of course. Recruits understand it, but what we talk to recruits about, look around college football right now, and the volatility, not just with jobs open, but jobs are going to change to fill the jobs that are open. It's a very, very volatile time, and there's a lot of things happening. It's one of the kind of, really silly things about our schedule is that we stick a signing day, in 2 weeks right after, jobs open, close, the whole type of deal. So it puts recruiting in a terrible bind. But at the same time, we've had great responses, and we've had players who committed to other schools. I'm talking about like top schools, who have called us and say, Coach, we're not so sure. We kind of want to come back and see Miami again this December. We had phenomenal recruits at the game on Saturday. Big time guys, commits, guys not committed who we think are on the cusp of committing. So, I think they look at us the same way that our players look at us. They want to make sure that we're the same people every week. They want to understand, they see the team, they see a team that's improving. They see the way we played in the second half of the season compared to the way we played in the first half of the season. But more than anything, they see themselves on the field. When they see Avante Williams out there, or when they see, Brashard Smith, making big time plays, and young guys, and Tyler, and the whole deal. They see themselves, because they say, okay, I see young guys out there doing it and making plays, and they start to see what they start to see how the change is coming at Miami, and what these last two recruiting classes have done to us. So, I think that's how you manage it.
Thanks.
Got time for two more. We'll go to Brian London. Brian, go ahead.
Hey, Manny, we hope you have a wonderful Thanksgiving. You talked about the defense earlier when someone asked you about, I think it was Kobe asked you about, kind of managing being head coach and defensive coordinator. As you look at the defense and maybe it not playing up to the expectations you had, what's the big picture fix on that? Is that an influx of talent through recruiting or the portal? Is it scheme? Is it coaching? What are your plans as far as big picture goes to get that where you want it to be?
Yeah, it's an entire 360-degree analysis that you do at the end of the year. The thing that stands out this year has been inconsistency. We've had, I don't know if we've ever had numbers and better numbers in the amount of 3 and outs that we've had. So that means that when we're dominant, like you look at the fourth quarter the other night against Virginia Tech, and I think we held them to 19 yards in 3 drives. It's been the lapses of concentration, the lapses in whatever it's been. Now, part of that's been because the lineup has been a little unsettled during the course of the year, especially in the secondary. And those are real life things that we've had to manage. That's been a little bit different than what it's been here in the time that I've been here. I will also say that the numbers, look, this is the best by far. This is the best the league has been in terms of offenses, the best the league has been in terms of quarterback play. So that's a part of it as well, so we're not happy with where we are. I think when you have both roles in terms of the head coach and defense coordinator, you're still concerned with the number one stat, which is wins. We're not happy with the number of wins, and our defensive performance early in the season helped contribute to some of that. So, but I think every coach, no matter what you're doing, you're always trying to say, are we trying to find a way to improve? We're trying to find a way to get better. And some of that has come through lineup changes. Some of that has come through, guys understanding what we're doing a little bit better. But we're constantly been faced with adversity, now it's, James going out, Marvin come back, and Avante, all of a sudden, playing a humongous role. And, you saw it with corners, we lost, when Tyreek going plays 12, 14 plays the other night. It's just been one of those years, so, what has not wavered has been our effort. The guys are running to the football. We have tackled better in the second half of the season than we did in the first half of the season, so, I think there are some things that are when you look at the whole picture it's not the way we wanted it. But I think there are some things that we can lay down from this year that will help us going forward.
Thank you, sir.
And actually, and one more, and again, remember, we're playing, and this is again a thing across college football. It's that we're gonna play more snaps. The way you practice when you go up tempo and that type of thing. And that's fine too. You know what I mean? So all those things, so many different little things, factor into to defense performance. But that's the way we want our program to be. We want to be a program that attacks. We want to be a program that scores points on offense. I mean, if you look at just what is going on now in college football, it's a scoring game. We know that being more consistent on defense and allowing less explosive plays can allow us to keep the score down, that's been our issue. Our scoring defense has been the biggest issue this year. So our players see it, our coaches see it, and it's something that we're always striving to get better at.
And we'll wrap up with Daryl Street. Or Daryl, go ahead.
Coach, how you doing? Happy Thanksgiving to you and your family. I got a question. In the last 15 years, the Miami Hurricanes have been first in recruiting in the Coastal. In the last 5 years, they've put more players in the NFL than any team in the ACC. If you had to take a guess, could you tell us why that hasn't led to more success?
So, say that. I'm sorry. Say that again.
Okay, so the last 15 years, the Miami Hurricanes have been number one in the Coastal in recruiting.
Mm-hmm.
In the last 5 years, they've put more players in the NFL than any team in the ACC. If you had to take a guess, because I know you haven't been here over 15 years. If you had to take a guess, could you tell us why they haven't led to more success?
I don't know more players than any ACC team in the NFL. I mean, what the
last 5 years? Yes.
Yeah, I don't know what the answer to that question that you're looking for is. It's like most things. I'm sure it's an answer. People can find whatever the answer they want to find. I'm sure there's a bunch of things involved in it. I think everybody knows recruiting rankings are tell part of a story. I don't know. Look, here's what I know. What I know is we're ending our third season being head coach. I'm really excited about the first two recruiting classes we brought in this program. I'm really excited. I can't speak a lot about 15 years and all those other things that you discussed and that you said. I think if we keep doing what we've done the last couple of years, and we keep bringing in the talent we brought in the last couple of years, and we keep playing, I think things are gonna get really, really good around here. So I can't carry around the burden of 15 years and 5 years and things like that. We got here, the program was where it was with the personnel that we had in it. And we try to get our people better every year, and that's us as coaches, that's us doing a better job every year. But it's not complicated. You want your program to be better, you bring in better people. And I think we're bringing in better people. I just do. So.
All right.
Great. Thank you, Coach. Thank you, everybody. If we don't see you before Thursday, have a happy Thanksgiving with your family and friends, and we'll see you Saturday.
Thank you all. Happy